We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. We need to create a message area in the Prison Planet message board where you, the listeners, can help find all the stories we've done, all the other big reports in the last 5 years, even before that. The military running secret drills in Texas, secretly merging with 77 Texas counties, the police running drills. It's in Road to Tyranny, where we have troops walk up to us outside Waco and say, turn your cameras off. They have the robot out there. They blow up 2 cars. They tell the public terrorists have really hit. They pull over the Greyhound bus. There's troops out there. They give us the secret document on accident, saying that they've secretly taken over 77 counties. That was in 98. Again, I can't even keep track of it all. I've told Watson today just to take all those links and to put them all together with just a header as an addendum to what has been done by the congressman, because people are, Willie Nelson 2 weeks ago just brought this up on his own on the show. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts just called me out of the blue last week. He used to kind of poo-poo concentration camps when I'd have him on. Father of Reaganomics. Now he's all freaking out because of the San Francisco Chronicle story. He's sending me documents. Well, we need to find, it's in my book, but we need to find that addendum that was classified, declassified, reclassified, PDD, all the other PDDs. Remember Thomas Sanchez said he saw a secret PDD 25 in Alice, Texas, and he was the emergency manager for the Kingsville County, and he was a former special ops in Vietnam, emergency manager, head of the town. They came to him and said, we're getting ready for martial law, and he said, no, I won't be part of it, and then he was on local television. I mean, Daniel Hamburg, I'm almost panicking here because I have trouble grasping how this has crept into every facet. In my film Road to Tyranny, made in 2001, 2002, I have a former Marine Corps captain who was in special ops in the late 80s, secretly merging military and police, doing gun raids, drug raids. I mean, this has been going on a long time, sir. Yeah, and it's hard to tell if anybody in Washington, like let's say among the 535 legislators in Washington, are any of them aware of this? I mean, I think Dennis Kucinich, who may lose his seat very soon, is aware of this. Like, he was the only member of Congress who asked for an investigation of this incident on August the 30th, in which 6 live nuclear-tipped cruise missiles were transported from a base in North Dakota to a base in Louisiana, which just happens to be the staging base for the Air Force for munitions that are sent over to Iraq. And Kucinich was the only member of Congress to try to push for an investigation of that, which of course actually never happened. And I just wonder, does Sheldon Whitehouse, does Feingold, does Leahy, does Bernie Sanders, does anybody in Congress understand what's going on in this country? I think there's one person, and then I want your take on this, Congressman. DeConcini on the Homeland Security House Committee said he wanted to see it 6 months ago. They said no. Then the chairman said he wanted to see it. And Bush said, you can't even see the new continuity of government. It's so bad, not even Congress can see what the full plan is. But we can reverse engineer it at the ground level and see what it is. Total takeover. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. DeConcini's a Republican. I mean, if they're not even allowing Republican senators to see this kind of stuff. Something I saw this week, though, that I thought was rather heartening was that Senator Susan Collins, who was pushing the Senate version of Jane Harman's bill, which is the Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act of 2007, I guess now 2008, which passed the House by a vote of 404 to 6. And this is a bill that would set up a commission to examine and report upon the facts and causes of violent radicalism and extremist ideology, which is exactly what we happen to be talking about this morning on your program, Alex, that in the state of Maine, there have been protests at Susan Collins' offices against this kind of very, very creepy legislation. So, I do think that there is a pushback, and regular, I saw them on TV the other day, and these were not, these were just regular, ordinary citizens saying enough is enough.
So things like that do give me some hope that people are waking up a bit to what's going on.
Well, I agree that there is pushback against this. What are ideas you have, Congressman, to fight this?
Well, I think the first way you fight it is information. I think people have to know what's going on, and then they have to find each other and be ready to organize. And and I think that eventually this is going to involve a lot of people taking to the streets. We've seen it happen in other countries around the world, and we've seen that there's a point at which enough people get fed up enough with what's going on that they demand that it stop. I think that it's really interesting to see this Obama phenomenon going on, and I think all your listeners understand the very compromised position of a Barack Obama, who gets the majority of his funding, or a lot of his funding, from Goldman Sachs, from the nuclear power industry, and so on. But what Barack Obama shows is that this is a country that is just dying of thirst, wandering around in the desert, just wondering where they're going to get their next sip of water. And Obama is standing there with a glass of water and saying, something will change. And I'll tell you what, if he does carry through with this, and he is elected president, and if the kinds of change that people in this country want does not begin to happen, by 2012, we're going to be on the verge of a kind of degree of public unrest that this country has certainly never experienced in its 200-plus year history.
And that's why they're building the camps. They are going to continue with their policies. It's not going to change. They'll give us some fronts, some fakes, in my educated opinion, like Obama, who will say what you want to hear, but then won't actually do it. But you do see them choosing him over Hillary. She's being rejected because people know she's a warmonger. People know that she's establishment. And I misquoted earlier the articles. Bush's martial law plan is so shocking even Congress can't see it. Executive Uber Alice, as member of Homeland Security Committee, barred from viewing post-terror attack provisions. PrisonPlanet.com, President Bush's post-terror martial law plan is so shocking that even members of Congress and Homeland Security officials are barred from viewing it. And it was Congressman Peter DeFazio, I don't know why I said DeConcini, was asked by
that makes more sense.
Was asked by his constituents to see what was contained within the classified portion of the White House plan for operating the government after a terror attack, and he was told no. Then the chairman asked and was told no.
Now, was that the chairman of the Intelligence Committee?
That was the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee.
Okay.
House.
Okay.
I did pull it up. It was also in the Oregonian, not just our article about it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's also a really good reason to wonder what might transpire between now and November. I think people who say, well, will there even be an election in November? Will there even be a transference of power from the neocons? Although, I think there are a lot of very powerful influences in this country that see how badly the neocons have damaged the country. At least in terms of our international reputation, the country is economically bankrupt. I mean, things are not all that wonderful in America that there's definitely a need to tweak things. And maybe that's all Obama is. But if he doesn't slake some of that thirst that people are feeling in this country for some very bread and butter things, like I was talking to a guy this morning, he happens to be a very wealthy guy, sent his 2 kids to college. They can't find jobs. These are college-educated rich kids, can't find a decent job. So the destruction of the middle class, the lack of a decent healthcare system, the lack of decent schools, the fear about what's happening to the climate. I mean, Americans have lost their sense of optimism. And that's what Obama is providing, and that's why nobody else, I don't think, can touch him, is because people are so desperate to feel some degree of hope and some degree of light in terms of where this country's going.
But I think it's like somebody in the Sahara Desert 4 days without water who starts seeing, big oceans of fresh water.
Yeah, well, I'm I'm a green. I voted for Cynthia McKinney for president, so I'm not a big, I'm not a story-eyed idealist. And I've been to Washington, and I've seen the way Congress works, and I know it's, just as corrupt as people can imagine that it is. It's a swamp back there. But I still think there is this yearning in people's hearts for something real and something true and something good. And if they don't get it, that yearning turns into anger. And at the point it turns into anger, people start demanding that something change. And, it's my only hope. It's all I have to hope for, is that people will finally get fed up and demand that it change. Because as we know, that's the only way anything ever changes.